that for some people, they want to know the playbook. They don't care
Yes.
about the players. They want to know the statistics. They want to compare and they want to measure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might be someone like that. And a lot of our viewers are going to be like that, and they're going to be
Yeah.
super excited to hear about what you're about to show us.
So we can see that average price points for condos went from, just shy of 800K, so 793 to 771. We've pulled back just shy of 3%. Towns have remained around that 2%, and we've seen townhouses kind of stay in that like 9 to 975. It hasn't cracked 9 on the downside, so I'm curious to see how things go after this rate hike. But our biggest movers to the downside would be semis and detached. And then you also have this demand from people who are in this segment of the market that's come down a little bit. So you've got this little bit of a squeeze. So I actually think that the condo market over the next couple months will probably perform the best, just given the fact that you've got people coming from here to here that don't want to rent, and that you've got rental prices pushing up this way. And so I don't necessarily think we're seeing like prices go up or anything like that for condos, but I think if we're talking on a downward slope, I think they will decrease the most gradually.
Hi, I'm Alec, and you're watching the Canadian Real Estate Channel. Maybe you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, or some other way. Today, I have a fantastic guest. You've seen her before. Her name's Emma. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, statistic. It seems like she is a master of the craft, and she knows what's going on. Hi, Emma. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things a little differently today. I know you have a presentation, and I know you're very, very analytical, and that's probably contributed to your massive success. It looks like you've sold over $100 million in real estate. Is that right?
Yeah, significantly more than that. We're probably closer to like 150 now. I'd have to run the stats, but yeah, we've done a little bit of business for sure.
Yeah, just 150 million, no big deal, like no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, it's been a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you have people that work for you or with you?
Yeah, I've got a full team. So there's 6 of us right now. So it's myself and 4 other agents and an administrator right now. We had an ISA, but we decided to restructure a little bit just given the conditions of the market and us having a little bit more time to kind of nurture the leads ourselves. So I think we'll continue to restructure as the market progresses. And yeah, it's, again, building a business is a much different journey than just being a single agent.
Yeah, a single entrepreneur. You're now a leader. You're now, a manager. You're developing people. And, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I asked you, are you an athlete? And you said yes. What kind of sports did you love playing? Which ones did you play? And how did that contribute to the way that you run your business and the way that you achieve success?
Yeah, so great question. I played basketball, soccer, and hockey for the most part growing up. Hockey being the primary one that took the majority of my energy, effort, and focus, because I played it at a fairly high level for most of my life, from 5 to 18, 19, right? So I think it's actually something that I look for a lot, especially with team members moving forward, is those who have played team sports, specifically high school sports. I think it really provides you an opportunity to, obviously work together towards a common goal and have a shared goal, and to a certain extent keep your ego at bay, because there's always other people that have better skill sets than you on something. Like with hockey, it was great. I was a pretty well-rounded player. I played center. They dropped me back to D. But there was always somebody who was like a better right wing than me, or, somebody who got more assists or whatever it happened to be. And I think sports are a pretty incredible thing to teach you a lot about leadership and just to teach you a lot about teamwork and how to work together, how to persevere through like very difficult times, how to win together, how to lose together, and basically how not to give up in a group, because I think we live in an environment where it's very easy to like blame other people and not have accountability for your own actions. And I think playing sports is it teaches you a lot. Now I'm boxing as just kind of like my kind of day-to-day thing, which I also think if anybody's watching this and is an entrepreneur, something that I would very highly recommend. It's extremely physically draining, but also very mentally demanding. And they say everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, and I have learned that in the flesh. So it's been a journey.
I love it. It seems like you've been on this channel quite a bit over the past year, and there's been a lot of focus on data, statistics. We talked a little bit year after year, year over month, metrics. And I just want to know, I want to dive into some of the things you just said and a little bit more about you. But cool. If people are not interested in personal stuff, if you're not interested in getting to know the people that are going to make you money, are going to help you find the place where you want to be, if you're not interested in what people are trying to do to build a team and persevere in these trying times, then you can just skip forward and we'll just get through the data. But until that happens, one of the things you said that I absolutely loved, and it was just right there, was you got a plan until you're punched in the face.
Yeah.
I had a question about the number you dropped, almost 150 million in business. How much of that business is from millennials?
At least 3/4 of it for sure. And so I think a key component of our continued success, and I guess more recently, probably within the last 18 months or so, one thing that I've always done since I started in the business was after every year I'd go through my entire like past client list, and I would go, okay, cool, who are the clients that I really love to work with, and who are the clients that were maybe like a little bit more challenging or whatever happens to be, and I would write down all of their similarities. So like, why did I really get along with this person, right? And so I would do that every single year to help refine the list, to go, okay, well, like I can serve, basically, if you try and serve everybody, you serve nobody. And so I started to kind of like niche down. And then what I realized was the people that like fill my battery when I'm working with them, not that I feel drained, right? It's like you can do whatever you want to make money. But I think right now I'm at a point in my business where I want to work with people that fill me up, that I'm genuinely happy to work with. And like when I talk to them, it's not like, someone calls you like, oh God, I got to answer this call. It's like, okay, yeah, perfect. I want to help this person. And what I've realized is that for me, and especially like specifically with my team, it's always millennials. So we've really geared our marketing and we've changed our strategies to implement working more with millennials, because we knock it out of the park with them. They always have an amazing experience. They're the ones who are always like, this was awesome. Like, where can we leave you a review? And for us, it's like, it's amazing to help somebody kind of get in the market on that journey and see kind of how we can build this thing together, look for their long-term goals and see what has happened for other clients and how we can strategize to make them have success long-term. So I would say 95% of our business right now is with millennials. So that number is, that ratio will continue to increase more towards millennials moving forward.
Amazing. I'm really impressed that most of your business is with millennials. Personally, that's not the case with me. I work mostly with old folk, 60s and their 70s. I'm trying to set them and their kids and their grandkids up for multi-generational wealth, but I'm not a realtor, I'm just a lowly developer and multifamily investor. No big deal. But
can I ask you a question on that then?
Because of course.
It's interesting to see two different segments of the market. So when you're working with an older generation or whatever, how much of your physical time investment is required?
Tons.
Yeah.
It takes like a year before they'll even talk business or talk to these people, just creating relationships. You know, of course, I was a professional musician for over a decade, and you get to know a lot of people, and you know, it seems like there's this huge nostalgia. Like, I think our generation, we're all very creative. We understand that we can do anything. You know, you were talking about how you box, and you know, I think being fit is really important. I think being active is important. Like, it takes a lot of energy. But these relationships are years in the making. But then at some point, because of the knowledge they have, it's like they're like, man, I really got to get rid of this building, you know? And I'm like, well, I'll take it off your hands and I'll give you like 80% of the cash flow, and then we'll just refi in a few years and pay you out. We'll put it in your family's trust. And they're like, deal. And we shake hands, and then that's it. But there's like a year, sometimes, you know, multiple years to get those relationships built. And then once you have some strong relationships, it's easy to pivot in referrals, because often they know their friends, they've known them for decades, and they say like, hey, this gentleman over, this young gentleman over here, he's doing great stuff, he can help you. And at that point, you don't have to make a relationship with those people. You just kind of have to maintain rapport and be consistent.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. No, the reason that I ask is because one of the things that like I thought about, you know, specifically moving forward, because now millennials are the largest generation in the workforce, right? And so as much as like I also love to work with them, I also think there's of course long-term benefits and you know, potential for my business to continue to grow as we have just kind of passed that threshold. But we love to purchase things online, right? Like I've been able to really change how I do business. So one of the things that I've done is, I'm not sure if you know Matterport. You know Matterport, like the 3D walkthrough? Okay, so like a virtual tour kind of thing, right? So one of the challenges was I find agents, like they'll just cheap out, especially in today's market. People are starting to cut corners on marketing expenses and stuff like that, because you don't know if the property's going to sell if you get a listing, because the market's slower and whatever. And so one thing that I did was, it really irritates me when someone doesn't provide a virtual tour on their listing. I'm like, dude, it's 2022. If I'm looking online, I want to feel like I'm in the house and be able to pre-qualify the house before we go there. Like, what an absolute waste of time. It's such a small expense for you to help so many people. So I told my guys, I'm like, I'm just buying the camera. So I just bought 2 Matterport cameras for our clients. So that way I help my team members, and I also help our clients, because if our clients are at work, our job is to work for them while they're at work. And then when they're not at work, that's when we can go and bring them to the properties and all that kind of stuff. So I bought the 2 cameras, and I just told my guys, I'm like, listen, when our clients are at work, if there's a property that they can't see, or if there's 6 that they like, you go and do the Matterport tours for them, send them to them, and then at the end of the day, they'll go, cool, I actually didn't like these ones. Cool. Now we've just saved them a ton of time, you a ton of time on Saturday and Sunday. Instead of showing 6 properties, you guys only need to go see 2. They're already relatively pre-qualified, and it's just easier for everybody to make a quicker decision. And so like for me, I'm thinking about like, how is real estate going to progress? How do we stay on the cutting edge of that? And how do we, you know, similar to Uber, it's not like how did someone go and buy a house with you tomorrow, but how do we make that process so much more refined and like it's just kind of boring and cumbersome, to be honest, looking for houses, or it can be, right? It can be very exciting for a short period of time, and it becomes very cumbersome and like torturous after a certain period of time. People are just like, just find me the house.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're just trying to find ways to figure that out. And I think millennials, for us, like that's just where I'm at. That's why I like to ask you, because you could also miss a lot of the relationship-based things that are really important to you if you're only focused on tech. So it's like, how do we continue to maintain both, right?
Yeah, it seems like you have a great balance. And, you know, I love that you said, like, I don't know why people aren't using virtual tours, right? Like, it's not about the one sale. Obviously, you know, we talked a little bit, and I want to get into this, how you've got this Monstera brand, really exciting stuff. You're really stepping up your business. And it's not about one sale or one client, right? It's about being consistent, and it's about providing massive value to tons of people. And the more that I hear you talk, the more that it's clear that you are with it. You are tuned into the times, and you are a force to be reckoned with. So we can get into the brand stuff now if you want. I'd be happy to hear about it.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, if anybody's been watching, I think we're probably close to 16 or so months, maybe 18 months since we started recording, since I've been on the channel, which is pretty crazy. And so, for almost my entire career, not quite my entire career, there's about a 6-month gap, I've been with the same brokerage, which is called Zoocasa. If anybody's been watching me for the last little while, they know that I'm a huge proponent of the Zoocasa brand. But my team has just been growing so rapidly, and I felt that it was really important that we had our own identity and our own brand that was maybe more in alignment with like specifically millennials, but like our goals, our missions, our values. I'm a huge plant lover, and I also think there are a lot of similarities, or one of the things with real estate is I think it, for people who are new to it, it's very overwhelming. There's so many concepts. People start dropping, comparables. They start dropping all of these, industry terms, and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, make it easy for me to understand, right? And I think business and plants, there are a lot of analogies that can, we can explain theories and in terms of like how things happen from a plant perspective. And so I think for us to be able to make things easier to comprehend for our clients, I just felt like there was just so many things that kept bringing me back to this plant theme. And so we've, rebranded to Team Monstera. This is our logo, and you guys will see it in a second. But yeah, like our concepts are, how do we boil these down to really, easy to understand concepts? And kind of the theory behind the brand was, the Monstera plant is something that's relatively simple to take care of, right? So real estate doesn't have to be complicated. It's simple, it's not easy. So a plant, this particular plant still needs love, it still needs attention, it still needs consistency, but it doesn't require anything crazy. And I think that's the same thing with real estate. It's like, if you pay attention to it and you're consistent with it, you can start with not a whole heck of a lot of money. And you can build it into like an amazing plant, but you have to plant the right seeds at the beginning, right? And then the other thing with this particular plant is it doesn't require a ton of natural light to grow. And I think it's really important. Like, people will market all the time, oh, this is so easy and it's so fun and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's a lot of great, fun, sunny times in real estate. There are a lot of dark times in real estate as well. And our goal is to grow regardless of the climate of the market. And so that's something that I try and train my agents, is like, right now is not the most ideal condition to be an agent. We're still growing though. We're not just because the sun isn't shining like it was in February, we are not slowing down. And so I think that all kind of came into effect when we were thinking about, like, what do we want to associate with? How do we make it easier for people? And how do we allow people to grow regardless of whatever the climate is?
Yeah, well, I live on a 200-acre farm, and
wow.
Planting is important. But when we got here, just the past year, we realized, like, there's so many plants on this farm already that we don't need to remove them and call them weeds, because they do have a use, right? Mm-hmm. So you're talking about, the small stuff and then moving strategically and getting bigger. And you're also talking about, like, weather and storms and seasons, right? So, like, what I've noticed is actually a lot of the plants on the farm grow more in a thunderstorm than in the sunshine.
Yeah.
Right? And like, a lot of people don't want to go out in a thunderstorm, but I don't know about you, but sometimes under the right conditions, being out in the rain is a really good time. And there's so many opportunities in every market to both make money and get what you're looking for. And I think it's fantastic, this metaphor that you've built, because who doesn't love nature?
Totally. And I think everybody, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was in grade 4, they start teaching about, photosynthesis and different things about plants. So it's a concept that, children can understand. And I think some of the best businesses out there are people who can take very complex things, or things that seem complex, and boil them down to make a child understand. Because then that everybody, has some good, like a good grasp or comprehension of the ideas. And yeah, I mean, like, one last kind of component to it was, we're living in smaller spaces. I know we talked a little bit about condos before. Like, we have a tremendous our immigration statistics and population, influx to Ontario is pretty vast. And I think as we continue to progress in the future, we're going to inevitably continue to live in smaller and smaller spaces. And so people are going to have less outdoor space. And as a result of that, I've already seen, like, read some white papers on like millennials lifestyles and stuff like that. We're bringing more plants in our house to make it feel like a more of a natural space or whatever. And it's like, plants just make a home feel like a home, right? They provide, calmness and anxiety relief and all this kind of stuff. And I think that it's something that, like, I really want to be associated with in the future. When someone thinks about this plant and they think about us, like, I would be really, really proud to be like the first thought in someone's mind if they ever see a Monstera plant.
Do you give people plants on closing?
Yeah, so we've been trying to, because we like just did the brand relaunch. I was working on it for the last little while, but I'm trying to, in all my listings now, do like a little Easter egg where like a Monstera plant will be in all the listings. And yeah, the team's got them, and we'll probably start giving them out to clients and giving them out as gifts and stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure people will love that. You talked about recharging your battery.
Yeah.
And, we are nature. We are nature. What other things, help you recharge your battery when you're dealing with the coming and going and the busyness of, the type of endeavor that you've decided to come into? And honestly, like, you're continuing to impress me. I can't wait to get into the data. We're going to jump into that real soon. Because that's, I heard you were like a genius. Right, so
I wouldn't say I'm a genius. I think that.
Well, you don't have to say it. Other people are saying it about you, right?
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm just really refreshed with the plant metaphor. I'm really refreshed that we're able to have such an easy conversation, and I really do understand why you've been so successful and why so many people are reaching out to you. You respect people's time. I want to respect yours here. So after this, after you answer that, I'd love to get into your presentation.
So I think one thing that I have learned that I did not understand at the beginning of my career was like a concept of leverage, right? I think too many people hold on to too much money, or they hold on to, they're too afraid to kind of let things go. And one of the things that I've learned from one of my mentors / coaches was this exercise of something called an energy audit. And so it's not a fun thing to do, but it's one of the most effective things that I think anybody can do in their life. And that is for 2 weeks, about every 15 minutes, you write down what you're doing. Okay. So it's a big time investment, but you go through all those things and you rank them from 1 to 4. So what things are you really, really good at and enjoy doing? What things are you good at, but you don't necessarily enjoy doing? What things are you not so great at, but you still do? And then what things are on your plate that you are terrible at and you really don't enjoy? And the whole concept is, how do I build this framework to take those things out? And this doesn't have to be even from like a business perspective. It could be, hey, I want to buy some of my time back, and maybe I'll get a cleaner every 2 weeks so that I can go out with like my friends a bit more because I'm feeling pretty low on like my social gas tank or whatever it happens to be, right? And so what I did was, that was how I figured out who should I hire first and how do I buy my time back to have, because if you have a lot of those 4s, then your battery is just always low because you're just working on things that you're really not good at, that you really don't enjoy. And it's really hard to get a lot of enjoyment out of life. And I think I found there were certain things that I was filling my plate with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, I just, this is not serving me any purpose. And then I found other people that was their one. They were amazing at it and they loved doing it. And I was like, this is the perfect pair. That's how I figured out who to hire and how to get my time back. So now I try to focus on the things that do fill my battery and that I do enjoy. And I still have we're human. So sometimes you catch yourself slipping back and like, why am I taking this back on my plate? And I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing assistant who's like, you need to be cautious. You're taking this back on. Should somebody else be doing this? Should I be doing this for you? And I think it's just like this ever growing thing and like this journey of just figuring out the things that really, really, fill your battery. Like me, training my agents, I'm more excited after that call than when I started. I have more energy, right? It's like the gym. You typically you're like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And you go and it's like, you never feel worse after the gym typically. And so it's like, how do I find those things that when I do them, I'm really refreshed and I have good energy and I'm nice to people and whatever, instead of being like, I'm in a terrible mood because I had to do this thing that I don't like. And I did that at 9 o'clock and now my day's ruined. So that's kind of like my structure of how I'm going about it right now.
I love it. And you mentioned the gym again. We talked about sports. You know, a lot of people look at sports in different ways. And my dad was a football coach. Like growing up, he was a big athlete, and I looked up to people like Michael Jordan. You know, these Tom Brady characters. And I never cared too much about the playbook, and I never cared too much about the statistics. But
Yes.
for some people, they want to know the playbook. They don't care
Yes.
about the players. They want to know the statistics. They want to compare and they want to measure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might be someone like that. And a lot of our viewers are going to be like that, and they're going to be super excited to hear about what you're about to show us.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm a big data person because I think data is like, it's like breadcrumbs to give you like the answer at the end of the day, right? Might not always be perfect, but you're able to draw like a relatively like an amazing guesstimate or a good, you know, a fairly good idea of what could potentially happen, or at least get this far and go, it's going to go here, it's going to go here, right? I'm a big proponent of trying to have all of the information. I'm a big fact finder, so I like to really gather all my information and then create some type of model or basis on why my thoughts are what they are, so I'm able to like at least back them up. And so, yeah, I look at the data and I assess it every month and I try to figure out what's going to happen.
So please talk to us about Monstera, and please let's get into it. I know that people may have just fast forwarded to this point. If you are just jumping forward to this part of the video, this is the meat of the video, and we're getting into it.
Cool. So like I do every month for anybody that watches this, I like to talk about kind of the market activity and kind of the year over year, month over month performance, right? And so if we look at this graph here, this side is what I would consider the most important stuff. And so a lot of people, when they look at data, they only look at year over year. And I don't think that that tells a good enough story. Like, it tells a story, but I don't think it tells the whole story. And so I've always been a proponent of tracking what's happening month over month because I look at it every month. And so if we look at June prices to May prices, and again, this is segments of Toronto, so we can see that average price points for condos went from, you know, just shy of 800K, so 793 to 771. We've pulled back just shy of 3%. Towns have remained around that 2%, and we've seen townhouses kind of stay in that like 9 to 975. It hasn't cracked 9 on the downside, so I'm curious to see how things go after this rate hike. But our biggest movers to the downside would be semis and detached. And so my theory behind tracking this, and I'll show you in a second, because rents are going up so quickly, and what we're seeing is, the people who would have purchased detached or semis are like, okay, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore because my carrying costs have gone up so substantially, right? But okay, I could just not buy anything and I could go and rent, and then they're like, oh shit, the rental prices are really high in Toronto right now because they're just skyrocketing. So I think this middle ground is getting a little bit squeezed, where you kind of have a bit of a floor right now because rent prices are going up so quickly. So condo owners are like, I don't really want to let my condo go at a massive discount because the rents are helping to prop me up, especially if you bought a condo like 2 or 3 years ago and you're at like a 2.5% rate. You're probably the most cash flow heavy you've ever been. You're probably cash flowing quite a bit right now because rents have skyrocketed. And then you also have this demand from people who are in this segment of the market that's come down a little bit. So you've got this little bit of a squeeze. So I actually think that the condo market over the next couple months will probably perform the best, just given the fact that you've got people coming from here to here that don't want to rent, and that you've got rental prices pushing up this way. And so I don't necessarily think we're seeing like prices go up or anything like that for condos, but I think if we're talking on a downward slope, I think they will decrease the most gradually, or we'll see some stability. I mean, 2% is not a massive mover if you look at the rest of the market right now. So that's kind of my guesstimate for the future, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the future is friendly, as Telus says, but we don't have a crystal ball. And,
we don't.
We've seen, I've been in the markets, I've been in crypto and all kinds of things, and there's anomalies, right? Ray Dalio is one of the most prominent financial people in the world. He's got principles of the New World Order. you know, he's a multi-billion-dollar real estate developer and stock portfolio trader, and he made his money on the anomalies, right? So we're not trying to say that we know what's going to happen, but when you see the graph, there are trends, and it's important if you're watching this to understand that we're looking at how things we hope are going to go, and we're telling you as things are now so that you can make the best decision now. And the return on investment on a deal you don't do is always 0%. So I always urge people, just take action, make something happen. If you have to take a loss, I believe it's because you're thinking too short term, because the market just keeps going up over time. And you know, you don't learn unless you're playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, so I mean, the one saying in real estate, I don't know if anybody who's watching this video has heard it, but real estate is yo-yo on an escalator, right? It goes up and down on the way up. And so I think right now we're in scary times for most people, which is very understandable. The reluctance, hesitancy, paralysis as a result of like negative media and stuff like that. It's completely understandable that people feel that way. But I'm not sure if you watch Patrick Bet David. He runs Valuetainment, and he actually did this incredible market crash video. I think it's about an hour long. If you're watching this video, after you're done this, you should watch that. I think it's amazing. I think I watched it like 4 or 5 times. But one of the biggest takeaways that I took from that video, he goes through every proper market crash over the last 100 years, how long they lasted for, how long they pulled back for, and stuff like that. And if you actually look at what happens after the market crash, on average, we go for about 100 months on a bull run up. And that's 100% of the time after a market crash. We've seen that happen, right? And so I know that at some point in time, prices, I will say, I feel very, very, very confident, to change my wording, that prices in the future are going to be higher at some point than they are today, right?
Yeah, you know the trend. And we can assume that if you water a plant and there's sunshine, it'll grow. So that's why we plant seeds, right?
Totally. So I guess the thing is, and the whole caveat to this is, you got to be prepared for the long term, because you don't know when that's going to happen, right? We know it's the probability and likelihood is very high that that's going to happen. The timing of when we reach that pinnacle is undetermined at this point in time, because there's too many other factors that play into effect. So you have to look at your plan B, plan C, plan D, and you have to be prepared for any one of those plans to happen for a prolonged period of time. And if you do that and you find a great deal in today's market, I actually think it makes sense. If you are not comfortable with any of the things that I just said, don't do anything at all. Wait. But at some point in time, you will look back, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, and you're going to go, probably should have bought then. Probably should have done something then. Right?
Yeah, maybe I missed a major opportunity. Sure. We've done a lot of business in our group of companies, and if you especially in sports, if you hit a home run, it doesn't matter that you missed the ball.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. So I urge people to participate. I think I don't like using the word market crash, right? I like saying it's a market correction. And when you see prices skyrocket the way they have in the past couple of years, you know that a market correction is inevitable, right? It's just something that's gonna happen. And you mentioned the news and fear mongering and these types of things. And it's like, you really need to be talking to experts such as yourself to get the real story, right? Because people who sell media, they know that using fear gets more sales. I don't have anything against them. That's their business. Good for them. But like, you make your money by helping people accomplish their goals. So it's a different motivation, right? And I really, really love this. I love this.
To that though, I just want to make a statement, because I know a lot of people probably think this, like, well, Emma makes money selling real estate, so of course she's going to try and spew or spin the data to make me feel like I should buy real estate. Honestly, there's a lot of agents that would do that. What I would tell you guys is, I actually don't care if you buy real estate. Like, I genuinely don't, because I know that there's a certain portion of the marketplace. I know what the numbers are. The minimum requirement right now for people who just absolutely need to buy and sell real estate because of things outside of what's happening in the market, personal motivation, their landlord sells, they get a divorce, they have a kid. Like, there's so many other things outside of just the market. I literally don't care if you're watching this video and you want to buy or sell real estate. I don't care. I'm not going to try and convince you to do it. My plan is to be doing this. I think I'm still pretty young. I plan on doing this for the next 25 years. I'm not ruining my reputation to try and convince you to do something that you don't want to do. My job is to be there when you're ready to do it and to advise you on what I think could be the possible outcomes for you. I'm not trying to convince you to do anything. And if there's an agent out there in today's market that's trying to convince you to do something, then that's like a red flag. Do not be in the habit of collecting red flags from people.
Yeah. So, like, what do you think your customer satisfaction is? What do you think? How much of your business comes from referrals, and how often do you get referrals? And are you? I just want to really clarify for the audience or anyone that could be watching. Even if someone doesn't want to buy, should they reach out to you?
I think it's interesting because one of my favorite clients that I've ever worked with came from one of these videos, right? And we had the what I would call like the picture perfect relationship, right? He reached out to me and he reached out to me last February and he said, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking of doing. I can't make a move until the end of the year, but I was hoping that we could maybe set up a couple touch point calls throughout the year so that you could tell me what I should do today to get here. And then we can connect again. And then from there to there. He actually did the things that we talked about though. So I would call him every 2 months, like clockwork, and we'd hop on a 15-minute call, and I'd be like, okay, this is where you're at. This is what you need to do before the next call. No pressure. Don't buy a house though. Like, you literally can't buy a house. You have a new job and you have all these things on the go. And we literally talked for, I don't know what it was, like 10 months before he bought a house. And then by the time he was ready to go, we had already built this existing relationship. There was no pressure. To me, he was amazing because he committed, like he did commit to me and he did the things that he asked of me. Like, what should I be doing? Okay, I talked to this person. Perfect. By the time it came time to him actually purchasing something, he knew everything. And it was like, he already had all the information that he needed. So as long as you're somebody that's like, hey, I want to buy in the next 12 months, can we actually set up a strategy to like hop on a 15-minute call every 2 to 3 months and I can like get my ducks in a row? That is my favorite type of client to work with. It's, it's relationship building. There's no pressure, but if I'm going to invest my time, I expect that you're going to like do the things that we talk about in the call. And if you hop and we go to the next call and you haven't done anything, then there's not really much that we can do to get past that. You still have to go back and do that homework at the end of the day, right? I think those are the best relationships. It's like, there's no pressure. I don't think that someone should sign up for a Facebook ad and spend $5 and then the next day we make a $30,000 commission. And that's how most agents mindset is, I want to generate a lead for $20 today. And I'm pissed because they don't buy a house with me tomorrow for 20 grand. I'm like, you realize there's like all of this time and work and energy and effort that you have to do. But there's a lot of agents that get burned by clients because they take their information and leave and go buy with their cousin or whatever happens to be. So I think if it's like a mutually beneficial relationship, a long-term mutually beneficial relationship are like the best clients I've ever had. This guy refers me and we're 10 out of 10 partners.
I couldn't agree more. It's about long-term relationships, and you build rapport with someone like, maybe they're going to buy something again in the future, especially, I think about being in the industry till I die. I believe you retire, you expire. Like, I love what I do. I love investing. I love growing people's wealth. And I was going to touch on the fact that, like, a lot of times people reach out to me and they say, like, hey, when I look at your social, it's all about goats and chickens. Like, what the heck is that? Like, I want to hear about all the business you're doing. And, of course, I'm 30 years old. I'm a millennial myself. And when I used to do music events, I used to sell all my tickets just on Facebook. So I'm definitely aware of the power of social media. But, I like to think, of course, I'm an artist. I like to think my social media is like fun. And I try to have fun with it. And I do include a lot of my business in that. I'm not saying I don't, but it's always for fun. I feel like, for me, I'm doing less transactions that are a larger size. And I'm happy with that. I'm lifestyle driven. I'm trying to, I have a 2-year-old kid. I'm at home. I'm raising my kid. Like I said, I have goats and chickens and I have a dog and I live on paradise. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to rush. I don't want to feel like I have to go anywhere. So what's really, really beautiful about everything you're saying is, like, because at the beginning you asked me, like, what about a different demographic? What about like expanding my business into different demographics and working with people that have built lifetime wealth? And I think that they would be lucky to really work with you, anyone, any demographic. And it's so cool to see that you're so well-rounded. Like I love that you have the skills, you have the technology, you have the know-how. You're following people like Patrick Bet-David, who is a master of not one but multiple industries. He's a fantastic human being. I just finished reading his book, Your Next 5 Moves.
That's actually funny. I started it again yesterday. So love that book. I think it's fantastic. There's a lot of different things to take away from it. So I'm happy to see that, you've read it.
Yeah, and what are your next 5 moves?
You want to know what? I think this time where the market's slower is a time where a lot of people just take their foot off the gas. There's a lot of people that just like put their head in the sand. They're like, just let me know when things are like busy again, right? That's clients and agents. For me, I'm like, wow, we can build systems and processes and we can make things better and we can onboard clients that we're going to have these relationships with. People can take a slow and steady approach. Like, I just really like the breathing room. So for me, I can't talk too much about what's going on, but like I have a couple like really exciting irons in the fire at the moment. And so I think this particular downtime, don't just take it as like, this is a boring time, nothing's happening, blah, blah, blah. Take this as like, I'm going to plan. I'm going to find someone who I can follow. I usually try and choose like 2 or 3 people every quarter. And it's like, I try to like almost exclusively listen to them. So, Patrick Bet-David, Alex Hermosi, those are kind of like 2 guys right now where every single day I'm consuming something from them because they're both geniuses and they're both unbelievably successful and talented in 2 different kind of segments of the market. Alex is potentially like slightly more tactical, I think. Patrick is more kind of like high level. And so find the people that you like. They don't have to be those 2 people, but find the people that you like, follow them, say, okay, I have to make a decision. What would this person do? What do I think that Patrick Bet-David would do if he was in my shoes? And so then I go back and I write out all these things and it's like, okay, I want to get from here to here. Here are my 10 things. Here are the 2 that are going to have the most impact to get me here. I'm going to execute on those things. And then I'll write down a list of what do I need to do for those 2 things to let them come to fruition. So that's how I'm planning right now.
That's fantastic. You're obviously not slowing down.
No,
it's like
that's not the plan.
When you're winning the game, you can still get the nicest pass or the nicest shot of your entire life. And you can create momentum and morale on the team that's going to go into the rest of the season or the rest of the career in the league or for the team in the future, right? So It's fantastic to see that you've been successful. You definitely very successful, congratulations. It's fantastic to see that you're building your team, you're getting your systems together, you're gearing up to serve more people. And I think our generation really needs people such as yourself that are going to help them and understand their needs and really make sure that they're not wasting time and really make sure that they're getting what they need. And I love that you said, like, you don't need to make the sale. I love that because, yes, you're a salesperson, right? But sales isn't about the transaction, as you said. It's about the people. And it's about satisfaction.
If you help somebody else accomplish what they're looking to do, then you're going to get paid, right? And I think that too many people have a very short-term outlook on what this is. And that's why I said, like, if you're not actually prepared to purchase real estate this year and hold on to it for like 10 years, don't buy it. Because a lot of people think, I want to buy real estate and I'm going to buy real estate and I'm going to sell it within a year. I'm going to make all this money. This is what I'm going to do. Like, no, don't do that. It's worked over the last couple of years. That might not be the best strategy today. If you want to do it, I wouldn't be your person because I wouldn't want to sell you something that I don't believe in long-term at the end of the day. But like, I plan on doing this for a long time. So I don't really think that my need to make a sale tomorrow should impact what I'm trying to do over the next 10 years. And so like, this is kind of what I've told my team members, because a lot of them are still, they're newer in their career than I am. I'm like, right now, it's like you're an amateur playing in like the NHL, right? So things seem really tough and you're like this is a really hard market to be in, or like this league is like, but you grow into it, right? And you become great, and all of a sudden you score your first goal, and you kind of grow up to the container that you're in, and then you go, all right, cool. When all of a sudden the market shifts and you get pushed back down to the amateur leagues of where I actually think we were pre-COVID, you're like, I am the best player in the amateur league, like without question, right? And so it's like, if you can actually work really hard in the NHL and get up, and then all of a sudden things switch and they put you back down to the other league, it's like you're going to blow people out of the water. So you might as well just try and develop your skill sets in a tougher market. You might not get as many goals in the NHL as you do in the amateur league, but when you get flipped back down, you're probably going to get twice as many goals in the amateur league as you did when you were previously before the NHL.
Yeah, and you're the product of the people you surround yourself with, and when you stretch an elastic band, it doesn't stretch back to the same
Totally.
size. So I really appreciate your time. I know you have a day full of activities and lots of people that are going to need your wonderful service. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to say here. I'd like to give you the floor.
I think what I was going to say is normally we go through many more stats, but this conversation has been amazing. I'm actually really happy that we did this because I think this is kind of a different take than what we do every month. So if anybody is here for the stats and didn't get what you're looking for, tomorrow I am going to record a video on my own YouTube channel. We can lead to it, and I'll make it a very clear and concise, version of the data that we usually go through. So I appreciate you guys sticking through to today, and then we'll do a separate segment for just the data.
Well, it was a pleasure to connect, Emma. You're fantastic, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, Alec. Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate you being the host. It was fun.
Okay, well, guys, you heard it from us. Things are good. Doesn't matter in the market. Get ready for the season. Start preserving your food and get ready to grow with just a little bit of sunshine sometimes is what you need. This is the Canadian Real Estate Channel. You just heard from Emma about Toronto, and I'm Alec. Bye, love you.